Tourism and travel in Africa will see positive growth this year. That's according to a new report by Moore Global and the Daily Mail Group. The 2023 Hotel and Hospitality Industry Confidence Index seeks to understand trends, challenges and perceptions facing this sector. Now, 17 African countries in the tourism industry were surveyed and they feel optimistic about the future post the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, now increase in investment is considered a key factor in bolstering the sector's recovery. To discuss this positive news, I'm joined by Evan Schiff, and he's the Portfolio Director at Daily Mail Group Events. Evan, thank you so much for joining us. Let's discuss this positive growth, if I can call it that, in not just South Africa, but Africa as a whole when it comes to this industry. Post-pandemic, of course, but then I also want to get to how the figures look like, of course, you know, now when it was pre-pandemic. But let's first discuss the growth.
Absolutely. As we all know, tourism and the travel sector were hit enormously hard during the pandemic, of course, with lockdowns, with danger in face-to-face, an industry predicated on travel and predicated on people getting out and being out there will, of course, be severely hit. However, what we've seen in 2022 was a great resurgence in travel as the lockdowns were lifted. People had been locked away, people had been had their lives disrupted, and as soon as lockdowns ended, people wanted to get back to traveling and they wanted to get out there, the greatest of all trips. So they'd planned these amazing trips while under lockdown and then obviously had the opportunity to actually take them. So what we saw was a rise in tourist levels and a rise in travel again worldwide, with Africa certainly keeping par with the tourism recovery of the rest of the world. So although we are approximately only 49% of travel numbers that we were pre-pandemic, it is really gratifying and really amazing to have seen that number and to see those travelers coming back again to Africa and experiencing all that we have to offer here.
Let's talk about pre-lockdown, those numbers. Of course, you know, like you just mentioned, it's not as great as what it was pre-lockdown, the numbers yet. But when can we expect, you know, those numbers to reach those levels again?
You know, that is really interesting because it is all predictions. It is all what people are thinking. And that's why, together with Moore, the Hotel and Hospitality Show, did this confidence index. We wanted to know what are the operators on the ground in Africa thinking, those people that live this day by day. And it was overwhelmingly positive. The 82% of respondents were confident of the recovery over the next 6 months in the short term. When asked about longer horizon, a year to 2 years out, that rose to 90% being positive about the prospects of the industry. And those levels from the people that are actually working this and seeing those travelers day to day is really incredible because it means that they will be willing to do investment, something else that the confidence index came out quite strongly on. People are willing to spend again. They want to go back into capex. They'll be doing refurbs. They are telling us that they are actively seeking out projects. They are actively seeking out good staff. And they are wanting to make sure that the technological advancements and innovations they put in place during COVID, they want to take out what worked and then be able to move forward with the rest of it. So with an industry that buoyant and that positive, we can infer from that yes, the travelers and everybody are going to be coming back in greater numbers.
Of course, you know, Africa and South Africa, we do depend on foreign investment, like you just said, but also we also depend on, you know, international tourists coming to this country, to this continent, to not just invest, but to spend. And, you know, it gets one to think when it comes to the global economy that's been, you know, not the best it's been in years, and the global inflation also being a huge problem. Are you concerned that that might have an impact on tourists coming to this country and this continent?
Well, yes, that is of course a concern. Three of the obstacles that the sector is most worried about, as came out in the report, was, yes, inflationary pressure. So this is a problem that most countries in the world are experiencing, and of course results in higher operational costs. It lowers travelers' discretionary income, and then interest rates and construction costs put further pressure on the sector. Another obstacle, these are the three biggest obstacles: energy costs. So the rising costs of energy, taking aside the issues of load shedding in South Africa, for the rest of the world, these energy costs as well. With the war in Ukraine, energy costs are rising, and then talent shortages actually are one of the top issues. So hotels are struggling to find and retain skilled staff. There was a bit of an exodus of staff during the pandemic. Obviously, hotels couldn't open, so people went to find work in other areas. And then those that were really good and those that really felt tourism and hospitality as a vocation also got alternative opportunities in other markets. So the African hotel sector is really looking to build up those talent shortages and find those amazing staff to bring them in. So yeah, those are three of the obstacles that are being faced, but there are some very definite trends driving demand as well.
And, talking about some obstacles, of course, I read something that high menu prices could also be a huge factor when it comes to, some obstacles that this industry might face.
Yes, it's true. But if you think about it, there are different offerings for different markets. So there are certainly some restaurants that will be at the higher end of the scale, and they are catering to that business market or to the wealthier market. But there are a great many restaurants, a great many establishments that offer more reasonable costs, that offer budget items as well. So I think what you have to look at is how has the pandemic changed the profile of the customer that traditionally went to these sorts of establishments. And for those tourism and restaurant businesses that managed to survive, they were the best at adapting their business models and adapting their service offerings to what these new customers wanted. So when business travel stopped, when international tourists dried up in South Africa, for example, the hotels and the restaurants pivoted to the local tourism market. They pivoted to the African tourism market as well. And with this new market came in a different need for different services and different experiences. So those hotels, those restaurants that could adapt to the changing tastes of these new customers were able to survive and were actually able to generate new business as well. So as with all of these very heavy shocks, and as terrible as they are, they do spur innovation, and that innovation, that adaptability of your business model, that adaptability of your service offering will define who are going to be the winners and the losers, the survivors going forward.
And some prospects, South Africa's GDP, they will be benefiting, of course, in this scenario when it comes to this sector.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely right. The more discretionary income there is, people want to go out there and have amazing experiences. If you look outside in South Africa or throughout Africa, the incredible variety of landscapes, of opportunities, of experiences. There's beaches, there's game farms, there's wilderness areas, there's athletic tourism, there's nature-bound wellness, which is one of the big trends that are driving demand forward. We have these in a great many, in a large amount of supply. So the more that people have the money, there's no less desire to travel. So the moment the money is there, people will get back on a plane, they will get back in a car and go and have these amazing experiences.
Thank you so much. That was Evan Schiff, Portfolio Director at Daily Mail Group, saying that travel and tourism is on an upwards trajectory here in South Africa and Africa as a whole.